it's like these 3-year dancers have lapped you, and it's like they can't accept it because they're just like, oh, all these kids, you think they're so cool, you know? And it's like, in a sense, yes, because a lot of these people who are new, they're better dancers. And I'm not saying all new dancers are better dancers than these people who started for 25, 30, 40 years. What I'm saying is that there are a lot of people who have put a lot of time into the dance, but they just kind of got stuck in some area. And if we're talking about, if we pretend it's a mountain, they might got stuck like midway up the mountain. But then there's other people who start, and they start near the summit.
Yeah.
So they're already they're so far up, and it's like, is it fair? No, it's not fair. But at the end of the day,
It's what it is.
Yeah, nobody cares how
what it
fair it is. Everyone cares about like if you've got the goods or not.
All right, we are back, and on this episode, we are going to tackle a very difficult subject for most people. And what this subject is, there's really no other easy way to say this, but pretty much we're going to talk about Tango Has-Beens. And what does that mean? Well, unfortunately enough, like as time progresses and as technology advances and knowledge accumulates, it takes a lot less time to accumulate certain things because of the recent innovations. And so you'll find a lot of times there are some people that are still stuck in the older ways, right? They're stuck in the the times where, like 20 years ago where, the knowledge that they accumulated was once very valuable and it wasn't common knowledge. But very quickly, because of the way the internet spreads and because there are so many different ways to outlet information now, that information has not only become common knowledge, but it has in many ways maybe even outdated. And so you'll find that a lot of people, instead of just thinking like what's out there and, oh, let me learn some new techniques or new ways of teaching certain things or new approaches to learning, people are still kind of stuck in the times where they had their golden years of, oh, this really worked, and so why should I change? And so we want to talk more about that, Tango Has-Beens, and how a lot of people are kind of stuck in the past when, especially today, it's all about what have you done for me lately?
Yeah. I'm going to say, so self-admittedly, before I reinvented myself, I was stuck in this place of being a Tango has-been also. And not only dance-wise, but, social notoriety. Because I was an organizer, I had one of the best milongas, but then COVID happened and that went away. And then, a few years after COVID, and I didn't organize again. And then no one cares if I was an organizer. No one, it's like, I know every once in a while I'll bump into somebody and they'll go, oh, I really missed your milonga. It was so great. But, the mass majority of people, if no one mentioned it, I'm just regular Joe again. And that was something that was really hard. That was a jagged pill for me to swallow, getting back into tango and trying to become an organizer again, but then falling flat in my face. It was tough, and it was definitely a jagged pill to swallow, and it was really hard to just kind of say, hey, let's level set. Let's, I felt like that thing in Rocky 3 where he got beat by Clubber Lade, and then they're training with Apollo again, and he's like, you start from the bottom, going back up to the top, And I felt like I'm going through my Rocky 3, and the comedian's been my Apollo, and I'm like Rocky, just getting back at level 1, level 2, just hammering away. So.
I think it's hard because when you've been doing something for so long, and if you spend so much of your time, so many of your years to mastering and learning something, especially something as complex as Argentine Tango is, there is this kind of thing that you carry, which is like, dang, don't you know who I am? I started this. I did all these things.
I made this community.
Yeah, I made this tango world. And so and sadly enough, as more time passes by and more new people start, people aren't going to remember that, right? I made one of the videos kind of like celebrating like Javier and Geraldine. You'd be surprised at how many young like new dancers have no idea who Javier and Geraldine were,
Wow.
like as a couple, and that just like boggles my mind.
You know, what also boggles my mind is how many people who don't know who Gabriel Mise is. And like all these greats, I could rattle off all these greats, like Pablo Varone, like, you know,
Yeah.
and everyone's like, who?
Yeah.
You know, like,
It's not the hot you know thing out right now.
yeah.
Right?
And we can go to something more contemporary, like you can say like Sebastian Jimenez. People,
Yeah.
he's still out there dancing with Augustina, but it's not like everyone is rushing to, to kind of like all these past world champions. It's not like because they're not the new thing.
Yeah.
That it's not like everyone's like lining up the doors, not breaking it down to try to get lessons from them.
It's all about what you're doing what you're doing today, and especially in this kind of real scrolling culture we have today. If you're not on like Tango 030 and like these kind of real highlight clips, you're almost forgotten. It's kind of sad, and and I think the more you try to hang on, the more it limits you from growing and trying to become something new, right? To update yourself. Right? Like it's like for me, like it's been 10 years since I won SoCal. Like there's many people in LA like, oh, you won SoCal? Like, yeah, like 2015, right?
Yep.
Well, like it's not like I go around like, hey, here's my trophies. Like, don't you know I'm a SoCal champion? Oh, I won all the categories. Like no, like people only know what they know and that's what's current.
Yeah.
And so it's all about, I guess, continuously updating yourself, continuously learning, putting yourself out there. I think that's the only way, especially in today's really rapid pace society.
Definitely. And also, I think the other scary thing is how everybody is growing so much faster. Like, I remember when I first started, like, it's almost like if you could do one in row skate, you were the man.
Yeah.
It's like it was so hard. I was like, and there weren't so many people teaching in row skates back then.
Yeah.
There's like one or two people, and it was almost like, oh, we would do it in privates or something like that. So it was such like it was like the move that was gatekeeped.
Yeah. If you could do it in a row skate in LA, man, you were one of those like super good like dancers.
Now it's like
time.
now it's like it's so commonplace.
It's like part of the beginner package. Here's your row skate, and I'm day one.
I know, and so that's what I mean. Like I see these people who, they put so. I mean, don't get me wrong. You've been dancing for 25 years, 30 years, 40 years, whatever it is. I commend you for putting so much time, having so much passion for this dance. But then at the same time, they flip around and they kind of, it's like, I guess it's how you play it, because some people they have this Al Bundy phase of like, poke high, 4 touchdowns,
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, all these, it's like these 3-year dancers have lapped you. And it's like they can't accept it because they're just like, oh, all these kids, you think they're so cool, And it's like, in a sense, yes, because, a lot of these people who are new, they're better dancers. And I'm not saying all new dancers are better dancers than these people who start for 25, 30, 40 years. What I'm saying is that there are a lot of people who have put a lot of time into the dance, but they just kind of got stuck in some area. And if we're talking about, if we pretend it's a mountain, they might got stuck like midway up the mountain. Mm-hmm. But then there's other people who start, and they start near the summit.
Yeah.
So they're already they're so far up, and it's like, is it fair? No, it's not fair. But at the end of the day,
it is.
Yeah, nobody cares how fair it is. Everyone cares about like if you've got the goods or not. And that's like kind of the sad part is that you might have spent a lot of time polishing your technique, doing all these things, but your value is diminishing day by day if you don't grow. It's almost like, I hate to say this, it's almost like it's like tango inflation of skill. Like you start off like, oh, I have a good walk. Like that was such a big thing. It's like, oh, and even now you hear people say, oh, all I want is a good walk and a good embrace, right?
Yeah.
But if you have a decent walk and embrace, and you kept to that, you're pretty up here. But tango inflation happened, and now everyone has a decent walk and a decent embrace, and now it's like your value goes down, but you have to keep on building up.
I disagree with the walk part, but I understand your
Okay,
point.
well, I'm just.
I actually don't think a lot of people have a good walk nowadays. They have a good like other things.
Okay.
They have a good like here like Molinete, like heroes and things like that. But I honestly don't think they have a good walk.
Well, I'm just trying to do the whole inflation thing. I mean,
Yeah.
I
No,
get what you're saying.
I get your point.
But that's what I mean. It's like I just feel like there is a tango inflation of skills, and unfortunately, as you know, as people become better and better, more as teachers become better, and knowledge is passed out more quickly. People start up here, while and it's hard to compete against that, especially when they have youth on their side. Like, I'll be honest with you, like even for myself. I mean, I don't consider myself a tango. I mean, I consider myself a tango has-been in certain areas.
Yeah.
But now that I've reformed and like trying to build myself up again, sometimes like I feel like it's the same thing with some of my other hobbies. I'm like, man, these guys are so lucky. They started with all these good people around them, like building them up, and like in a sense, that's what a community does. We build each other up so that the next generation gets better and better and better.
Yeah.
But sometimes, as someone from the past generation, it's like I'm a little envious.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I'm a little envious. Like I'm envious that this guy who just got into the scene, like could do a back staccato. I'm like, you know how long it took me to get a back staccato? You got it in like 3 weeks. I'm like, God damn.
Well, there's so much better teaching now. There's
I
so
know.
much better technique teaching and these kind of things now.
Yeah.
Because the information has not only spread and common knowledge is more, but it's just we just know how to teach better details than before. Where the classic way is like do it. It's like that. That's almost like the old school classic way. It's like I show you, you do it. That's it. But now it's more like we have the details, we have the nuance, we have everything to be broken down step by step, and so people can do it now.
All right. Sorry about that.
But yeah, I am really against the years thing too, because as much as I respect it, and as much as people that have put in 40, 50 years of tango, that to me is incredible. At the same time, people always ask me like, oh, how long have you been dancing? And it's hard to say because everyone's years are so different. Like, if I just dance the milonga and all I'm doing is dancing at social events, I might be improving because I might be thinking about certain things and dancing with the different things, but am I really? I don't know, as much as if I'm studying, taking classes, taking privates, traveling to find better information, looking up certain things, listening to different podcasts and interviews of people that are sharing their details and things like that. Am I really putting the years of learning in, or is it just I've started tango and I danced tango and that was a year?
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird how we always hold this metric of years in tango, because I just think it's not an accurate measurement of what your capacity is and what your skill is as a dancer, because there's so much that's there's such an ambiguous number.
It's such a bad metric in another way, because people also kind of flip it back on itself as like this source of wisdom, and sometimes I feel like they want to say, oh, I've got 25 years on me, and to your credit, it's almost like, what is 25 years in the United States also to like, let's say 2 years in BA, where like it's much more accelerated. They have everything. They have the masters around them. They might have.
But then again, you could be in BA and not do anything either.
No, that's true
same
too.
Thing, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's like,
that is true. But I guess where I'm getting down to is that sometimes I feel like, sometimes I wonder, and these people who have all these years and they sit back on it, like, sometimes I hear this whole like, oh, they don't know the real, like, this goes back to they don't know the real tango because I've been doing it for 25 years, I know the real tango.
Yeah.
And they hold this metric, and it's like, sometimes I have to question myself. I mean, I question myself too. Like, I think I question myself a lot. Like, do I know the real tango? I honestly, I'm secure enough now to say, honestly, I don't know, and and I think that's my level of maturity is to allow myself to explore to understand that it's a possibility I don't know, but I feel that when people have they have this metric, it's almost like they need to justify this metric, they need to justify all the time they put into it, that it's hard. I mean, what do you do when you spend so much time on something and then realize it's not enough, or it's not what you think it is, or it's not like sometimes people have this idea of they climb the summit, they reach the summit, and then realize they're on the first peak, and there's like
There's
five
more
more peaks.
summits. Yeah, there's always
Yeah,
another summit.
yeah, but I think sometimes, especially a lot of people, I think that they're searching for the end. Like, I don't think a lot of people, when they pick a hobby or they pick a passion, they have this idea that I'm a forever student. Like, I think a lot of people have this idea of I'm an expert. Like, I reached expert status and that's it. Like, there's no more beyond it. And and I think that's where this whole years of experience comes in, because supposedly after 25 years, 30 years, you're an expert, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's hard to, especially when you talk to other people and other people who might not be in the dance or don't understand, to kind of go. I mean, do you ever run into that where people outside of Tango just kind of go, hey, like, why are you still taking classes? Like, aren't you a teacher?
Yeah, I get that all the time.
So is that part? Do you think that's part of American culture, or what do you think that's part of that people question you when you do that? I mean, that have that question. Like, how do you question? If we all understand that there's always more beyond, how does that question even arise?
I think when you hold a position of teacher, then people just say that you just teach now and you don't need to be a student anymore,
Yeah.
which I disagree.
No, I disagree too.
And so, yeah, it's just a positional thing in people's heads. That's it.
Yeah, but I think that's what I'm getting at is, I think the same thing has happened to years of experience. It's almost like, you put 50 years into this, how much more can you learn? You should be an expert. You should be this. You should have your doctorate, PhD, whatever of Tango.
Yeah.
So,
To me, I think the more years you do tango, the more you realize how much you don't know about tango. Right? I think honestly, that's the trend that I'm getting to. It's just I was every year I believe I found the solution to this thing I found, and then the next year I find some different solution. I'm just it's just, you just don't know. It's just too vast, right?
Hey, so do you ever consider I've admitted that I've went through the whole Tango Has-Been stage. Have you gone through that yet? I mean, you have your wins and everything, and no one remembers you now. But has that ever affected your, let's say, your security? Have you ever felt insecure and felt like a has-been?
No, because I feel like every day I try to prove myself. Every day I try to, be the best social dancer I can be. That's been my goal. Maybe I would say the last 7 or 8 years. My whole be the best tango competition dancer faded away a long time ago. I kind of just only did it as a challenge of myself, like in 19, 21. But I think the real passion to be a tango championship competitive dancer, I think that was ended when our tango house ended, the first one, 2016. And so, maybe will that fire spark again in me? Maybe. I think it just depends on the scenario. Honestly, it depends on the context. If I find a romantic partner and they're really interested in wanting to compete, then who knows? Maybe I just dedicate all this time practicing, focusing on dancing with this one person and making that as perfect as it can be, or mastering it as much as I can, and that's the route you go.
Yeah. So let's just say, is there any advice you have for, let's say, someone who feels insecure? They put 25, 30 years into this, and they've fallen behind, and they've now realized that there has been. Do you have any advice for that? How do you get over that hump? I mean, or how do you get someone to realize that you need to continue growing?
I mean, if you have 25 years, that means you have an extensive background, meaning that hopefully if you try to update your information or learn more things or put yourself out there in different ways, it will be easier than the person starting from scratch, right? Because you have a foundation of something. And so I would say that why not? Because you have the background, it will make it easier. It's kind of like I teach college, right? And as a college student, in the beginning, as a freshman, you think everything is so hard, everything's overwhelming, there's so much things to do. And it's not like the coursework necessarily gets easier as you progress. It's just that you've been so accustomed to knowing how things work, to knowing how to write certain papers, to knowing how to gather research and information, that it becomes easier, even if the assignments are not easier. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like that's the thing. You lean on your experience to make the learning of the new things easier.
Yeah, I totally see what you're getting at. For me, I think this is a tough one, and I'm still trying to like wrap my head around this also. So I think a lot of it for me is getting past the whole insecurity of being a has-been comes with finding new purpose. And it kind of piggybacks on what you're saying, of like, it's easy to like
The
pick
context
things
has to change,
yeah. But
situationally.
yeah, and I think when you find new purpose, whether that be, hey, how could I be a good mentor? How could I be how could I be a better partner for this person? How can I think a lot of times when people get stuck at that has-been stage and they get insecure, it's just because they lose their purpose and they're just like
They're
yeah,
trying to clutch to the past.
yeah.
And
And it's like, I reached my summit and I'm like, yeah, if you want to call that a summit, sure, know. But at the same time, it's like, it's time to move on, buddy. And that's really hard. Don't get me wrong. I struggled with it for a long time, and the worst part of it is this negativity I felt because like I put it upon myself. Like there's that one study where they put scars on people and then went to an interview. But like before they went to the interview, they wiped off the scar, but the person thought they had a scar. And then they focused and they always said like, oh, I didn't get hired because of the scar, I kind of feel like it's also the same thing because when you're I put that upon myself because I'm a has-been, and then I let that affect me because I just felt that, oh, people don't know me anymore because I'm a has-been, and I stopped putting myself out there. I stopped growing, and I let that really, it's almost like I took double damage,
Yeah.
And I think part of getting over that is just, it's like, it's okay. It's okay to start over. It's okay to be. Actually, I honestly I would say it's great to be a nobody because, it's a blank slate. You could it's a blank slate to rebuild yourself, to rebuild your image, and you don't have to hold on to who you were. You could I used to be like the super nice guy who's like super community oriented, and now it's like, hey, you know what? I got really tired of doing that, and let's just be something else, and that built a lot of excitement in me when I realized I didn't have to live up to this reputation that I built upon anymore, and that's when I realized that's what helped me get over the hump.
Nice.
I
can see that. Yeah, I mean that's the reason why people move, so they can change their identity and to meet other people and introduce themselves in a different way.
Ooh, that's an interesting topic for another episode. I haven't moved in Tango yet, but it'd be interesting. It's like this whole idea of rebuilding yourself in a new Tango community.
Yeah.
They
don't know your past.
Yeah, zero to hero from in a new city.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
That's why people do it.
Yeah, they do.
That's why they do it. But let us know what you think about Tango Has-Beens and how people grip onto the past. And the past is important. Don't get me wrong. It's important to honor traditions. It's important to learn from your past experiences. But I do think if you focus too much on the past, if you dwell too much on the past, it does hinder your growth going forward. And I think in today's society that's rapidly moving, as we said, you got to keep moving forward and you got to keep reinventing yourself. And I really admire the people out there, especially some of the tango performers that have been doing it for so long, but that keep reinventing themselves in different ways. And I respect that. And I think that's honestly the best way to go. But yeah, thank you so much, and we will catch you on the next one.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Left Foot, Right Foot.
We appreciate your support, and make sure you click that subscribe button and that like button. It really helps with the algorithm, and also you receive all our latest updates. Thank you.